What if I told you starting an LLC in Kentucky is probably way easier and way cheaper than you might think? Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to turn those business dreams into a reality by building a literal legal fortress around your personal assets in the great state of Kentucky. If you're ready to step into business ownership, you absolutely need an LLC. So let's walk through exactly how to build one from scratch. But hey, before we really get into the weeds here, let me ask you a quick question. How much do you think it actually costs to start an LLC in Kentucky? Because, a lot of people picture needing thousands of dollars, some fancy corporate lawyer, and literally months of waiting just to get a legal business off the ground.
Well, prepare to be surprised. The actual cost to file your LLC in Kentucky, it's just $40. $40. That's it. And if you happen to be a military veteran, that fee is completely waived. It costs you exactly $0 to file. Kentucky has made the barrier to entry incredibly low, which means you can stop stressing about startup fees and actually start focusing on building your business.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with a welcome to Kentucky business, then cover naming and registered agents, file your official articles, set up your internal blueprint with operating agreements and EINs, and finally, we'll navigate ongoing taxes and compliance. Simple, right? All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Welcome to Kentucky Business, the foundation of protection. Let's break down some of the legal jargon really quick. An LLC, or Limited Liability Company, is the absolute most popular structure for new businesses in Kentucky, and for very good reason. It legally separates your personal assets, so we're talking your house, your car, your personal bank accounts, from your business liabilities. If the business ever faces a lawsuit or debt, your life savings are completely shielded. Plus, it offers what's called pass-through taxation. Basically, the LLC itself doesn't pay federal income taxes. Instead, all those profits pass right through to you, the owner, and you just pay taxes on your personal return. It keeps your tax burden incredibly lean and completely avoids that nasty double taxation you see with traditional corporations. Now, I mentioned just a minute ago that the filing fee is totally waived for veterans, and I really want to highlight this quote from U.S. Navy veteran and business owner Albert Tanzi. He says, "The qualities that make good warriors also make good entrepreneurs." And honestly, the data backs that up. According to the Small Business Administration, veterans are actually 45% more likely to be self-employed than those without active duty experience. But really, whether you're a veteran or a civilian, building a successful business requires discipline, courage, and a clear mission. And thankfully, there are some really incredible SBA support networks ready to back you up, which we are going to cover a bit later. Moving right along to Section 2, naming and registered agents, laying the groundwork. Okay, so Kentucky has this incredibly unique naming law that you've got to hear about. Usually, in every other state, your LLC name has to include a designator like LLC and be completely distinguishable from any other registered business. If your name is too similar, boom, application rejected. But Kentucky, they offer an amazing workaround. If your preferred name is indistinguishable, you can just file a $20 application backed by the written consent of the existing name holder, and boom, you can use it anyway. It gives founders, families, and even franchise networks this incredible naming flexibility that you literally rarely see anywhere else. So once you've nailed down that perfect name, you've got to appoint a Kentucky registered agent. Think of this person or entity as your business's essential legal early warning system. They're the ones responsible for accepting service of process, which is just a fancy way of saying lawsuits, and official compliance reminders from the state. The parameters are pretty strict, though. They have to be at least 18 years old. They absolutely must have a physical Kentucky street address, so yeah, no P.O. boxes allowed. They need to be available during regular Monday through Friday business hours, and they actually have to provide explicit written consent to serve. You can actually act as your own registered agent if you meet all those roles, or you can just hire a commercial service to handle it for you. All right, on to Section 3, filing your articles. This is where we make it official. This is the big moment. You need to file your Articles of Organization, officially known as Form KLC, with the Kentucky Secretary of State. You'll specify if your LLC is managed by its members, meaning the owners run the show, or by appointed managers. Then, you'll list your principal office address and your registered agent's details. Finally, you just submit the form online via the Fast Track portal, or by mail if you prefer, and pay that $40 filing fee we talked about. And here is the absolute best part. Your LLC legally exists the exact second the Secretary of State approves that document. Honestly, if you do it online, it's usually the very same day.
Which brings us to Section 4, operating agreements and EINs, setting up the internal blueprint.
So even after the state recognizes you as a legitimate legal business, you aren't quite finished. You still need internal rules and a federal identity to operate in the real world. First up is your operating agreement. Now, I want to be super clear here. Kentucky does not require you to file this document with the state. However, it is an absolutely vital internal blueprint. It dictates your ownership percentages, exactly how profits are split, how voting works, and the rules for a member entering or exiting the company. If you don't have an operating agreement, your business is just automatically subject to Kentucky's default LLC statutes. And trust me, that might not be what's best for your specific situation. Having this customized document prevents conflicts before they even start, ensuring you have a clear roadmap for a drama-free business. Plus, almost every bank will ask to see it when you go to open a business checking account.
Right after that, you're going to need your EIN, or a employer identification number. Think of this as basically a social security number, but for your business. It identifies your LLC for federal tax purposes. And look, let me save you some money right now. Never, ever pay one of those third-party websites to get this for you. Just go straight to irs.gov. The whole application takes maybe 10 minutes, and you get your EIN immediately for exactly $0. You are absolutely going to need this to open a business bank account, run payroll, and file your taxes.
Okay, almost at the finish line. Section 5, Taxes and Ongoing Compliance. Keeping your business safe. Getting your LLC started is a massive accomplishment, for sure. But making sure your new company stays in good standing year after year, that's what actually keeps your legal fortress strong. So let's demystify some of the local tax jargon. In Kentucky, every LLC has to pay what's called the LLET, which stands for the Limited Liability Entity Tax. It's a mandatory annual tax imposed by the Department of Revenue. But don't panic. For the vast majority of small businesses, specifically we're talking about those making under $3 million a year in gross receipts, this tax is just a flat minimum of $175. Anchor that number in your mind right now, $175 a year. Aside from that, your LLC profits pass right through to your personal tax return. And here is some really great news for business owners. Kentucky actually uses a flat individual income tax rate. Even better, for tax years beginning on or after January 1st, 2026, that rate is dropping to an incredibly competitive 3.5%. Now, to make sure you never miss a deadline, here is your annual calendar. 30 days before you engage in any taxable activity, you absolutely must register your LLC with the Kentucky Department of Revenue online. Then, every single year, you have this really important window from January 1st to June 30th. During this time, you have to file an annual report with the Secretary of State just to confirm your registered agent and address details haven't changed. The fee for this is just $15. Please, do not ignore this. Missing a $15 filing fee can literally result in your LLC facing administrative dissolution, which means you lose all those legal protections we just set up. Starting and running an LLC is a journey, but please remember you really aren't doing it alone. Kentucky is packed with incredible and often completely free support networks. Whether it's the small business development centers at your local university, the Veterans Business Outreach Centers, the Boots to Business program for transitioning service members, or even getting a SCORE mentor to guide your strategy, there are experts ready and waiting to help you write business plans, get access to capital, and truly thrive. As we wrap things up today, I do need to remind you that this explainer is for educational purposes and definitely does not substitute for professional CPA or legal counsel. But look at what we've covered. You now know the what, the why, and the how of starting your Kentucky LLC. You know the costs are incredibly low, you know the exact steps to take, and you know exactly what resources are out there to help you. So my final question to you is this. What is your very first step toward business ownership going to be today? Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next explainer.